He sat in the corner of the room, staring at the coffee in his hand. Around him, people laughed, talked about plans, business, dreams, relationships, but not him. His heart was racing. Words were on the tip of his tongue, but they never made it out. He thought he was shy, broken, socially awkward. But the truth? He wasn't any of those things. He was just untrained, because nobody ever taught him how emotions work. Nobody showed him how to read a room. Nobody handed him a guide to human connection. And maybe that person is you. You are not shy. You're emotionally unequipped, and that changes today. So watch till the end, because what you'll discover may just unlock the version of you you were always meant to be. Why do people drain you so easily, even when you want to connect? Why do your words feel stuck, right when you need them most? And why does your mind replay social moments like a broken record, hours after they're over? You had something to say. It was clear in your mind. You even practiced it once or twice in your head, but just before the words could escape, you hesitated. Your body tensed. Your breath got shallow. And in that flicker of a moment, the opportunity passed, and you were left alone, again, with the same question circling in your chest like a restless echo. Why don't I speak up, even when I want to? You're not alone, and more importantly, you're not broken. The world might have called it shyness. Some labeled it anxiety. Others said you're just quiet, but that's not the truth. The truth is, you were trained. Not by choice, but by experience. Trained to hesitate. Trained to doubt your own voice. Trained to believe that silence is safer than expression. When you were younger, your voice came naturally. You asked questions, you made noise, you expressed without hesitation. But somewhere along the line, the world started to respond differently. Maybe someone told you to be quiet when you were excited. Maybe they laughed when you were vulnerable. Maybe your honesty was met with punishment, or your emotions were met with cold eyes. And something inside you, something innocent and sensitive, made a decision. It said, it's not safe to be open. It's not safe to speak. From that day on, speaking up became a risk, not a right, not because it actually is, but because it once was. And your nervous system never forgot. This is what most people don't understand. It's not that you don't know what to say. It's that your body doesn't believe it's safe to say it. And here's the strange part. You can be fully grown, highly intelligent, even confident in many areas, and still freeze when it's time to speak your truth. Why? Because your body stores emotional memory, not just facts. So, even if you know you're safe, even if you've read all the right books and watched the right videos, your body might still react as if it's 10 years old again, back in that room, being judged or silenced or dismissed. You feel the tension rise. Your breath shortens. Your mouth dries. And your mind, once so full, goes blank. Then afterwards, the regret shows up. And it's loud. You replay what you should have said. You criticize yourself. You label yourself as awkward, as weak, as someone who can't handle pressure. But here's the truth. It's not a lack of strength. It's a lack of safety. Your body is trying to protect you. It's trying to help you avoid what it thinks is danger, not realizing that danger is long gone. The silence you feel now is an echo from a past you never got to heal. And to change it, you don't need more pressure. You need presence. The next time it happens, that moment when you're about to speak but freeze, try something different. Pause. Take a slow breath in, and gently ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Don't analyze it, just notice it. Where is the tension? Is it in your chest, your stomach, your throat? Now, give it a name. Maybe it's fear, maybe embarrassment, maybe just uncertainty. But when you name the emotion, you start to tame it. Because what you can feel, you can free. You see, most people try to outthink their fear. But fear doesn't live in your thoughts. It lives in your body. That's why you can rehearse a conversation 100 times and still go silent when it matters. Because your mind is ready, but your body isn't. That's why real confidence starts with emotional safety. And emotional safety starts with awareness. What's even more powerful is this. Every time you notice the shutdown without judging it, you heal it. Every time you breathe instead of panic, you rewire your system. Every time you stay instead of run, speak instead of swallow, soften instead of shrink. You become someone new. But it happens slowly, not all at once. There will still be moments when your voice shakes, when you say something and immediately regret it, when the old programming comes back like a storm. But the difference is, you're aware now. You can see it. And awareness is the beginning of freedom. Let's go even deeper. What's the voice in your head saying before you freeze? Really listen next time. You might hear, "I'm going to mess this up. They won't take me seriously. I never say the right thing." These sentences might seem like harmless thoughts, but they act like scripts, and your body follows those scripts like a trained actor. So ask yourself, where did those beliefs come from? Who gave you the idea that you had to be perfect to be heard? Who made you feel like your voice wasn't enough? When you trace it back, you'll often find that the voice in your head isn't yours. It belonged to someone else, a teacher, a parent, a moment that hurt. But you've carried it long enough. And now, it's time to write a new script. Try this. Before you walk into a room, say to yourself, "I bring value. My words matter. It's okay to speak slowly. It's okay to pause. It's okay to be human." Even if you don't fully believe it yet, say it anyway. Because you're not just saying it for your mind. You're saying it for your nervous system. You're saying it to rewrite the story. The truth is, you don't need to speak like a speaker. You don't need to charm a room or impress anyone. You just need to connect. And connection doesn't come from perfect words. It comes from presence. When you're present, people feel it. They lean in. They soften. They remember you. Because people don't remember your grammar. They remember how you made them feel. And you can make people feel safe. You can make people feel seen. But only if you let yourself be seen first. So here's a question worth asking every day. What part of me is still afraid to be seen? Sit with that. Not to fix it, but to understand it. Because understanding creates space. And space creates change. Speak to that part gently. Let it know you're listening now. That you're not here to punish it, but to guide it. To teach it a new way. You've spent years silencing yourself, not because you're weak, but because the world once taught you that silence was safer than being misunderstood. But that world is gone, and you're still here, alive, listening, growing, and with every breath you take, with every pause you allow, with every moment you choose truth over fear, you reclaim your voice. So the next time you feel yourself shut down, remember this. It's not about saying the perfect thing. It's about showing up, even with a shaky voice. Speak anyway, not to be impressive, but to be honest, because your honesty is your power, and the moment you stop hiding it is the moment your real life begins. You are not shy. You were just never shown how to feel safe while being seen. Now you know, and now you rise. The hidden emotion that silently controls you. You've probably noticed this before. You're in a moment. Everything seems fine. Then something small happens. A tone in someone's voice, a glance, a few misplaced words, and suddenly you feel off, tight, uncomfortable, like the air changed, and you don't know why. You might smile through it. You might laugh it off. You might even say, "It's nothing." But deep down, something shifted. That something is real, and it's not random. It's a feeling that almost never gets named. Yet, it controls more of your life than you realize. It changes how you talk, how you walk, how close you let people get, and how honest you're willing to be. It's a feeling that sits underneath the surface of your personality. It hides behind your smile, and it controls how safe you feel just being yourself. That feeling is shame, the hidden emotion, the one most people carry without knowing, the one that speaks without words, the one that says, "Be careful. Don't show too much. Don't say that. Don't be that." And if you've ever found yourself shrinking when you wanted to rise, staying quiet when you had something to say, or apologizing for your existence, not your actions, then you've felt it. This is where we go deeper, because if the first step is realizing why your voice goes silent, then the second is seeing what's really silencing it. You see, shame doesn't yell. It whispers, and it doesn't just come from being humiliated. It comes from being misunderstood, from being ignored, from being told you were too much or not enough. And because of that, shame doesn't always look like pain. Sometimes it looks like perfectionism. Sometimes it looks like overthinking. Sometimes it looks like playing it cool, when inside you're overwhelmed. But always, it hides. It says, if they really knew me, they'd leave. If I say what I feel, they'll think I'm weak. If I take up space, I'll be too much. So you hold it in, and you become careful, cautious, controlled. But at what cost? Because the truth is, you were never supposed to live that way. You weren't meant to filter every part of yourself. You weren't born to hide your real thoughts behind a mask of silence. You were built to feel, to speak, to connect, fully. But shame gets in the way. And the hardest part? You don't always know it's there. It's so woven into your habits, your tone, your thoughts. You don't even question it anymore. Like a shadow behind your eyes, it shapes the way you see yourself. When someone compliments you, you shrink. When someone disagrees, you feel worthless. When something goes wrong, you blame yourself. Not because it's true, but because shame always looks for a reason to prove its story. And the story it tells you is that you're not enough. But here's what no one told you. Shame cannot survive honesty. The moment you bring it into the light, it starts to lose its grip. Not because it disappears overnight, but because what's seen stops controlling you. So how do you begin? You start by noticing. Notice the moments you pull back, when you edit yourself before speaking, when you apologize for things you didn't do, when you say, "I'm fine," but you're not. And when you notice it, breathe. That one breath creates space, and in that space, you can choose. You can choose not to perform. You can choose not to please. You can choose to show up, even with shaky hands. That's the beginning of healing. Because shame hates presence. It hates softness. It hates compassion. It feeds off judgment. And the first judgment is always toward yourself. The way you speak to you becomes the way you show up in the world. So here's something most people never hear growing up. You don't need to earn your right to speak. You don't have to prove your value before being seen. You are already enough to take up space. Right now, exactly as you are. There's nothing you need to fix before you're allowed to be heard. Shame will tell you otherwise. But shame doesn't tell the truth. It tells the past. It repeats old echoes. From people who didn't see you. From places that made you small. From memories you never got to rewrite. But you're not there anymore. You're here. And every moment you practice self-awareness without self-hate, you're breaking that cycle. Every moment you pause and speak to yourself with kindness, you're teaching your body that it doesn't have to brace anymore. You're building safety. Not out there, but in here. That's the real emotional intelligence. Not just noticing how others feel, but understanding the emotional layers within yourself. And shame? Shame is one of the deepest layers. It doesn't go away by pretending to be confident. It dissolves by daring to be real. So if today you find yourself hesitating again, holding your breath, second-guessing your words, try this. Say to yourself, "I'm allowed to feel this. I'm allowed to be here." I don't need to perform to be worthy. It might feel strange at first, uncomfortable, even fake. But remember, you're not speaking to the part of you that knows better. You're speaking to the part that still remembers the pain. And that part needs patience, not pressure. Healing shame doesn't mean you'll never feel insecure. It means insecurity won't control you anymore. Because now, you'll see it, you'll name it, and you'll stay anyway. That's power. That's presence. That's how you take your voice back. One breath at a time. There's something else shame doesn't want you to realize. You're not alone. Everyone you admire, everyone who seems confident, composed, successful, they've all felt this too. But the difference is, some learned how to face it, how to speak even when scared, how to stand tall even when their hands were shaking, and now, so can you. Because the version of you who silences themselves isn't your truth, it's your wound. But the version of you who breathes, who speaks, who stays soft, that's your power. So the next time you feel yourself pulling back, pause and remind yourself, this is just shame talking, but I'm not that story anymore. Then show up, say the words, let your voice rise, not to be liked, not to be perfect, but because you're finally choosing you. And when you choose you no longer need the world's permission. You begin to walk through life unfiltered. You begin to speak from your center. You begin to trust your presence, even in silence. Because the real you isn't hiding. The real you is returning. And piece by piece, word by word, you're coming home. How childhood trained you to stay silent. You weren't always this quiet. There was a time, long before all this, when your voice came easily. You said what you felt. You asked for what you wanted. You sang, screamed, cried, questioned, without thinking twice. You weren't worried about sounding weird. You weren't trying to say the right thing. You just expressed, fully, freely, honestly. But something changed. Not all at once. It happened slowly, quietly, almost like a soft erasing of who you were. One comment, one reaction, one cold silence, then another, and another. Until eventually, you began to hold your breath, then your thoughts, then your truth, and over time, that free voice, the one that used to belong to you, faded. Not because you wanted it to, but because childhood trained you to survive, not to speak. This is the truth that so many people miss. You don't stay quiet because you're weak. You stay quiet because once upon a time it was safer that way. Safer to stay small. Safer not to be too loud. Safer not to upset anyone. Safer not to be yourself. And when a child learns that their truth creates tension, rejection, or punishment, that child learns to hide it. Let's go back for a moment. Maybe it was a parent who always needed to be right, and when you spoke up, you got shut down, not just with words, but with that look, that cold stare, that sigh, that silence. Or maybe it was a teacher who dismissed your questions, who laughed at your mistakes. Or maybe it was just the feeling that your emotions were too much, that your sadness made others uncomfortable, that your joy was too loud, that your excitement needed to be toned down. You started to notice it. The way people flinched when you got honest. The way attention brought pressure, not support. The way your feelings weren't welcome unless they were quiet, polite, controlled. So you adapted. You learned how to be what others needed, even if it meant losing parts of yourself. And now, years later, you wonder, why can't I speak up? Why do I freeze when it's time to say what I really feel? Why do I struggle to take up space? But here's the thing. Your body remembers. It remembers the cost of expression. It remembers the danger in being real. And so it protects you. Even now. Even when you don't need that protection anymore. This is what emotional reprogramming looks like. It's not just about knowing better. It's about feeling safe enough to do differently. because your silence isn't just a habit. It's a defense. Let's talk about how that defense was built. Most kids don't grow up with language for emotions. You're not taught how to say, "I'm overwhelmed," or "I'm hurt," or "I need help." Instead, you learn by watching. And if what you saw was emotional avoidance, denial, suppression, then that's what you learned too. If your parents didn't talk about feelings, if they yelled instead of listened, if they ignored instead of held, then, somewhere deep inside, you learned, it's better not to feel too much. It's better not to speak too much. Even in the best homes, even in loving families, this can happen, because it's not always about abuse or trauma. Sometimes it's about subtle, repeated signals, the ones that say, only parts of you are welcome here. And so you cut off the rest. Your anger, your neediness, your wildness, your realness. And that cutting off, that emotional shrinking, it didn't stay in childhood. It followed you into your teens, into your 20s, into your relationships, into your career, into conversations where you had something important to say, but didn't. Because every time you feel that edge of honesty, your body sends a signal. Remember what happened last time? And so you go quiet again. Not because you want to, but because you were trained to. Let that sink in. You were trained to go silent, which means it's not your fault, and it's not permanent, because what was learned can be unlearned. But it doesn't start with force. It starts with awareness. The first step is to notice the pattern and name it. To say, this isn't me. This is an old protection system. To realize that your silence isn't your identity, it's your strategy, one that kept you safe, but now keeps you stuck. You can respect the part of you that stayed silent. You can thank it. It helped you survive. But survival is not enough anymore. Now you're allowed to live, to express, to take up space fully. And that starts with reclaiming the voice you buried. Not all at once, not with pressure, but gently, patiently, deliberately. Start with the smallest truths, noticing what you feel, without rushing to fix it, saying what you mean, even if your voice shakes, asking for what you need, even if it feels uncomfortable. At first, your body might resist, because it's used to silence. It thinks silence equals safety. But over time, with enough presence and practice, that will shift. And one day, you'll catch yourself doing something different. You'll say how you really feel. You'll stop apologizing for your needs. You'll speak up in a moment that once would have shut you down. And in that moment, you'll feel it. The return of your voice, the return of your truth, the return of the real you, the one that never stopped existing, just went quiet for a while. That version of you is still here, still alive, still waiting for permission to come forward again. And here's what you need to remember. That permission, it doesn't come from the world. It comes from you. You get to decide. It's safe now. It's okay to speak. It's okay to feel. It's okay to be seen, fully, because you are not that child anymore. You are not in that house anymore. You are not trapped in that silence anymore. You have grown. You have survived. And now, you are allowed to thrive. So the next time you feel yourself shutting down, the next time your voice starts to slip away, don't panic. Don't fight it. Just breathe. Pause. And remind yourself, this silence is not me. It's what I learned. But I'm learning something new now. Speak anyway. Even if it's messy. Even if it's awkward. Even if you tremble. Because every time you do, you unlearn a little more. You heal a little deeper. You come home a little closer. And one day that voice inside, the one that once went quiet to stay safe, will speak without fear. And it will say something simple, something powerful, something that sounds like freedom. Chapter 4. Confidence isn't what you think, it's this. You probably think you know what confidence looks like. Loud, bold, quick with words, never hesitating, never awkward, always certain. That's what the world shows you. That's what people praise. But what if I told you that kind of confidence isn't real? What if I told you the loudest person in the room is often the one trying hardest to be believed? And what if real confidence isn't something you show, but something you feel, quietly, deeply, from within? You see, confidence doesn't begin with posture. It begins with safety. It begins with the sentence, I am allowed to be here. Not just when you're perfect, not just when you're winning, not just when people agree with you, but even when you're unsure, even when you're trembling, even when you don't know what to say next. Real confidence is not the absence of doubt. It's the decision to keep showing up, even with the doubt. But no one taught you that. Instead, you were taught that confidence is about control. Control your image. Control your words. Control how others see you. So you try. You rehearse conversations in your head. You monitor your tone. You scan people's faces for signs that you're being accepted. And slowly, without realizing it, you exhaust yourself trying to be enough. That's not confidence. That's fear in a costume. And the longer you wear it, the more disconnected you become from your real self. Let's slow this down. Think back to a moment where you truly felt at ease. Not performing, not trying, just being. Maybe you were with someone who made you feel safe. Maybe you were alone, doing something you loved. Maybe you were laughing without watching yourself from the outside. That's what real confidence feels like. It's not, look at me. It's, I'm okay, even if no one's watching. Now imagine what it would feel like to carry that into your daily life, into conversations, into uncertainty, into moments where you don't have all the answers. Confidence isn't a mask you wear when you're sure. It's the courage to be real when you're not. It's the quiet voice inside that says, I may not be perfect, but I belong here anyway. And that voice, it doesn't come from ego. It comes from healing. It comes from all the moments you stayed present with your fear. From all the times you spoke up, even when your voice trembled. From every step you took toward yourself instead of away. Because confidence is self-trust. It's knowing that no matter what happens, you'll stay with yourself. You'll breathe through it. You'll learn from it. You'll carry yourself home. And here's the truth nobody talks about. Most people who look confident are terrified inside. They've just mastered the surface. But real power lives in the depth. Real power is being in a room full of noise and not losing your center. It's saying, I don't know, and not flinching. It's walking away when something doesn't feel right, without explaining yourself. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's grounded. And grounding doesn't come from being impressive, it comes from being honest. But that's not easy, because most of us grew up equating confidence with achievement. You were praised when you succeeded. You were ignored or corrected when you didn't. So you learned, I am good when I win. I am invisible when I don't. And now, as an adult, every time you fall short, that childhood wiring gets triggered. You panic, you shrink, you think you've failed, not at something, but as someone. But confidence isn't about getting it right. It's about staying kind to yourself when you don't. Because the truth is, you will mess up. You will say the wrong thing. You will be misunderstood. You will lose sometimes. But confidence says, I can handle it. I don't have to disappear when things go wrong. I am still whole, even when I am learning. That kind of belief doesn't come from books or speeches. It comes from experience, from repetition, from choosing not to abandon yourself when you feel uncertain. Let's go deeper. Have you ever noticed how kids don't think about confidence? They just do. They play. They speak. They fall and try again, until someone tells them to stop, to sit still, to be careful, to stop being too much. And from that moment, they start watching themselves. They start worrying about how they're seen. They begin to separate from their natural presence. That's what happened to you. You didn't lose your confidence. It got covered by fear, by shame, by expectation. But it's still there, under all that, and every time you choose to return to your breath instead of your panic, you uncover it. Confidence doesn't shout. It listens. Confidence doesn't chase attention. It stands in silence, calm and unshaken. Confidence doesn't need to prove anything, because it remembers this: I am not my performance. I am not my mistakes. I am not how others react to me. I am me, and that's enough. So the question isn't, how do I become more confident? The question is, where did I stop trusting myself? Go there. Be gentle. Ask the questions that hurt. What part of you was made to feel small? Who told you that you had to earn your worth? What moment made you believe that being seen was dangerous? Face it. Not to dwell, but to free yourself. Because the more you understand where you learned self-doubt, the easier it becomes to unlearn it. And slowly, you come back. You start speaking without rehearsing. You start laughing without checking if it's okay. You start walking into rooms with your shoulders relaxed, because you no longer believe you need to perform to belong. That is confidence. Not perfection, not control, but presence. And presence is built breath by breath, choice by choice, moment by moment. So next time you feel small, remember this: confidence doesn't mean you're never scared. It means fear doesn't make your decisions anymore. You don't wait to feel confident. You become confident by moving forward with fear in your hand, not as your master, but as a companion. Let it walk with you, but don't let it lead. Let your truth speak, even if your voice shakes. Let your presence grow, even in silence. Let your trust deepen, not in their reaction, but in your resilience. You are not here to impress. You are here to express, and that quiet fire inside you, that's the kind of confidence they can't fake, can't copy, can't take, because it was never built to impress them. It was built to carry you back to yourself. Chapter 5. The Mirror. Rule. How people feel. You before you speak. You've felt this before. You walk into a room. You haven't said a word, but people notice something. They feel something. They don't know why, but they sense the energy around you. Maybe they feel drawn to you. Maybe they feel uncomfortable. Maybe they back away without knowing what changed, and you're left wondering, what are they picking up on? You were quiet, polite, you didn't do anything wrong, but here's the truth. You're always communicating, even in silence. Because communication isn't just words. It's presence. It's emotion. It's energy. And whether you realize it or not, people are constantly responding to the unspoken part of you. Not your smile, not your outfit, not your handshake, but what you carry. What you carry becomes your mirror. This is what I call the mirror rule. Others feel about you what you secretly feel about yourself. It doesn't mean they're reading your mind, but they are reading your body, your tone, your tension, your subtle cues. And those cues don't lie. If you feel anxious, even if you hide it, they feel it. If you feel small, even if you act big, they feel it. If you feel unworthy, even if you pretend to be confident, they feel it. People may not know exactly what's wrong, but they can feel when something's off. This is why the work you do internally changes how people respond to you externally. It's not about perfecting your words. It's about aligning your presence with your truth. And if your truth is still tangled in fear, shame, or doubt, then that's what you carry into every room, whether you speak or not. Let's take it even deeper. Have you ever met someone who said all the right things, but something felt fake? Or someone who barely spoke, but made you feel safe, seen, grounded? That's the mirror rule in action. It's not about what they say. It's about what they radiate. And what you radiate comes from your relationship with yourself. If you are constantly judging yourself, other people will pick up on that judgment and reflect it back. If you're trying to impress, they'll feel the tension behind your charm. If you walk in hoping to be accepted, they'll feel that you don't fully accept yourself. This isn't magic. It's human biology. Your nervous system talks to theirs. Your eyes speak before your mouth does. Your posture speaks before your words form. We are wired to sense emotion before logic. That's why the work isn't just about becoming more articulate. It's about becoming more authentic. And authenticity starts with safety. Because when you feel safe inside yourself, others feel safe around you. When you trust yourself, others relax around you. When you're not trying to control how you're perceived, people naturally lean in. They can't always explain it, but they feel it. They feel you before they hear you. Now think about this. What do you carry into your daily interactions? Is it anxiety? Is it pressure to perform? Is it fear of being judged? Because even if you cover it up with smiles and small talk, people still mirror your core, and the only way to shift what they mirror is to shift what you're holding. That's why emotional intelligence isn't about reading others first. It's about reading yourself. The moment you slow down and ask, "What am I actually feeling right now?" you become present, and presence is powerful. It softens your body, it grounds your voice, it opens your energy, and when that happens, you stop sending mixed signals. You become someone who feels real, and in a world full of noise, people crave real. Let me ask you something. Have you ever tried really hard to impress someone, but it just didn't work? And then another time, you weren't even trying. You were relaxed, honest, maybe even vulnerable, and they were drawn to you? That's not luck. That's alignment. That's the mirror rule showing you what happens when your inner and outer world match. When your self-respect is real. When your calm isn't forced. When your eye contact isn't a performance. It's presence. That's when people say things like, "There's something about you. I feel like I can trust you. You seem really grounded." They're not complimenting your words. They're responding to your energy. Now here's something important. You can't fake this. You can't trick people into feeling you differently, because people might not understand emotional language, but they feel authenticity like a vibration. And what's more authentic than someone who's not trying to be liked, but simply being honest? That's your power, because the world doesn't mirror your performance. It mirrors your presence. So how do you change what people reflect back? Start by changing what you carry in. Ask yourself, do I walk into rooms trying to be enough? Or do I walk in knowing that I already am? Do I listen just to respond? Or do I listen to feel? Do I check my reflection? Or check my emotions? These small shifts change everything. Because once your energy is clean, you don't need to say much. People feel you. And when they feel you, they trust you. And when they trust you, conversations open, connections deepen, opportunities flow, but it all starts inside. Let's bring this full circle. In the earlier chapters, we talked about why you don't speak up, how shame shaped your silence, how childhood trained you to be small, how confidence isn't loud, it's honest. This chapter is where it all starts to click, because when you stop hiding from yourself, you stop hiding from others. When you stop judging yourself, people stop judging you. When you treat yourself with kindness and clarity, that energy mirrors outward and returns to you. The world becomes softer, not because it changed, but because you did. And maybe for the first time, you start to feel what real connection is made of. Not performance, not perfection, but presence. And presence is the most magnetic force there is. So next time you walk into a room, or look someone in the eye, or sit in silence with another human being, don't ask, "How do I come across?" Ask, "What am I carrying right now?" And if what you're carrying is fear, shame, pressure, breathe. Acknowledge it, hold it with compassion, and let your nervous system know it's safe now. Because the safer you feel with you, the more others feel safe around you. That's the mirror rule, and it changes everything. Chapter 6. Speak with Presence. A simple shift that changes everything. Sometimes it's not what you say that changes the room, it's how you say it. You could speak a single sentence, and people feel it for hours, or say all the right things, and no one hears a word. Why does that happen? Because your words are only part of the conversation. Your presence is the rest. And presence changes everything. If you've made it this far, you already know. People feel you before they understand you. You don't need to speak for them to start forming impressions. They're listening to your pauses, reading the tension in your body, measuring the way you take up space or shrink from it. And most of the time, it's unconscious. But here's the truth. Presence is what gives your voice weight. Presence is what makes people lean in. Without it, your words are just noise. But with it, even your silence speaks volumes. Let me take you back for a moment. Think about someone whose voice seemed to calm the room. They weren't loud, they weren't in a rush. They didn't force attention. They held it. It wasn't about charisma. It was presence. Something in their energy said, "I'm not chasing your approval. I'm already grounded." And in that grounding, others relax, others listen, others trust. That's the shift we're here to uncover. Because presence isn't a skill you memorize. It's a state you return to. And that state changes how you speak, move, and connect. But let's be honest, presence is rare. Most people aren't speaking from presence. They're speaking from pressure, from the fear of being judged, from the need to be liked, from the habit of over-explaining, over-apologizing, overthinking. And that's what people feel. They hear the uncertainty behind the words. They feel the tension behind the smile. They mirror the chaos behind your performance. That's why you can say everything right and still not be heard. Because people don't respond to the words. They respond to the frequency underneath them. So, how do you shift that? How do you speak with presence, even when you feel nervous, awkward, or unsure? It starts with one simple truth. Presence is not perfection. It's permission. The permission to be here, fully, without hiding, without rushing, without trying to control the moment. That's when something changes in your tone. Your voice softens, not from weakness but from depth. Your eyes steady, not to intimidate, but to connect. You stop performing and start being. And that shift is felt. Let's look at it practically. Next time you're about to speak, pause for 1 second. Just a breath, a soft moment of stillness. That breath is your anchor. That breath says, "I'm not in danger. I don't need to rush. I trust myself." From there, your words come out slower, clearer, realer, not because you planned them perfectly, but because they're coming from presence, not panic. That 1 second is everything. It's the space where your nervous system says, "I'm okay to speak now. I'm not running anymore." And when you speak from that space, people can feel it, even if they can't explain it. Now let's connect this to what we've already uncovered. In Chapter 1, we explored the silence you couldn't explain. In Chapter 2, we named the hidden shame behind it. In Chapter 3, we traced it back to childhood, the place where silence became safety. Then we talked about confidence, not as ego, but as self-trust. And in Chapter 5, we revealed how people mirror what you carry, even when you say nothing. Now, in this chapter, we return to the moment where your voice meets the world. But this time, you meet it differently. Not with performance, not with a mask, but with presence. Here's what presence is not. It's not speaking slowly just to appear confident. It's not pausing just to look powerful. It's not pretending to be calm while your body screams inside. Presence is not pretending. It's permission to be fully in your body, to be here, not in your head, to speak with your chest open, not your shoulders braced. Because when you're present, You don't fight the moment. You join it. And when you join the moment, your words feel like truth, not a script. That's why people pause when someone speaks with presence, because they're not just listening with their ears, they're feeling with their bodies, and your grounded state gives them permission to relax into theirs. Now, here's the tricky part. You might think, but I don't always feel grounded. Sometimes I feel nervous. Sometimes I overthink. Sometimes I blank out completely. And that's okay. Presence doesn't mean you never feel fear. It means you don't run from it. You stay with yourself. You breathe through the anxiety. You speak with the fear, not for it. And the more you do this, the more your body learns. It's safe to be here. I don't need to disappear. That's what rewires your presence. Not faking calm, but earning trust with yourself. Breath by breath, moment by moment. And here's something powerful. Presence isn't just about speaking. It's about listening. When you're truly present, you don't just wait for your turn to talk. You feel the room. You feel the silence between words. You respond, not from habit, but from awareness. That makes people feel seen. And when people feel seen, they want to hear what you say. That's the circle of presence. You ground yourself, others feel safe, the connection deepens. It's not flashy, but it's unforgettable. So, what's the simple shift that changes everything? Come back to your body before you speak. Not your thoughts, not your story, your body. Feel your breath, feel your feet, feel your face soften, and from that place, then speak. Because when you speak from presence, you don't have to prove yourself. Your energy already spoke for you. Let's end this with something real. You don't need to speak louder. You don't need better words. You don't need to rehearse your personality. You need to come back. Back to your breath. Back to your chest. Back to your truth. And from that truth, let your voice rise. Slow, clear, certain, not in content but in being. Because that's what people remember. Not just what you said, but how you made them feel. And presence, real presence, makes people feel safe, seen, and changed. Even in silence. Chapter 7. The 3 silent signals you're sending without realizing. You think you're being quiet. You think you're being polite, reserved, invisible. But people are reading you anyway. Because even silence speaks. Even when you're saying nothing, you are always sending a signal. And those signals? They shape how the world treats you. They decide who respects you, who listens to you, who trusts you, and who ignores you. Most of the time, it's not about your words. It's about what you're silently broadcasting. Through your posture, your breath, your eyes, your energy. And here's the hard truth. You're sending signals you don't even realize. Signals that say, don't look at me. Don't take me seriously. Don't get too close. Or worse, I don't believe in myself. And the world, like a mirror, reflects that back. That's what we're going to unpack today. The 3 silent signals you're sending without realizing. And how to shift them so you finally feel seen, respected, and powerful from within. But first, let's slow down. Have you ever had a conversation where the other person lost interest halfway through, or walked into a room and felt like people dismissed you before you even spoke? Have you ever asked yourself, why don't they take me seriously? Why do I always feel overlooked? Why does my presence feel invisible? It's not random. It's not bad luck. It's energy. And energy, like light, can be dimmed or directed. The question is, what energy are you silently giving off? Because the world is listening to your silence and deciding how to treat you based on it. Let's break it down. Silent signal number 1. I'm not safe with myself. This is the most common signal, and the one that triggers everything else. When your body feels anxious, tense, on guard, that energy leaks out before your words ever do. Your shoulders tighten. Your breath becomes shallow. Your tone becomes hesitant, and the message you send is, I don't feel grounded in who I am. Here's the thing. People don't need to hear those words. They feel them, and they respond accordingly. Because if you don't feel safe with you, they won't feel safe with you either. You could be saying something completely normal, even kind. But the emotional undercurrent is shaky, and that shakiness makes others question your presence. So what do? They interrupt you. They talk over you. They brush off your ideas. They subconsciously treat you as someone who needs to shrink back. Not because they're cruel, but because your energy is unconsciously asking them to. You've taught your nervous system to protect, not to connect, to scan, not to settle, and that keeps you disconnected from your own power. The shift? Breathe. Soften your shoulders. Ground your feet. Come back to your body before you speak. That's how you tell the room. I'm here. I trust myself. You can trust me, too. Silent signal number 2. I don't believe I deserve space. This one is subtle, but powerful. It's the way you apologize without using the word sorry. It's the way your voice trails off when you speak. It's the way you avoid eye contact when you make a request. You're not saying it, but your energy is whispering, I'm not sure I should be here. And that whisper becomes a mirror. People hesitate to invite you in. They hesitate to include you. They feel that energetic doubt, and they reflect it back. Not because they mean to, but because your signal is shaping their response. If you treat your presence as optional, the world will treat it that way too. This signal comes from deep beliefs, usually formed in childhood. Maybe you were told not to interrupt, not to take up too much space. Maybe you were shamed for being loud or bold or expressive, and so now you shrink yourself, even when no one is asking you to. But here's the truth. You are allowed to take up space. You don't need to prove it. You don't need to earn it. Just stand, breathe, speak, without shrinking at the end of every sentence. Hold the eye contact. Hold the silence. Hold the room, not with force, but with presence. That's how you teach others. I believe I belong here. You should, too. Silent signal number 3. I expect to be dismissed. This one hurts because it creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you expect to be ignored, you unconsciously make it easier for people to ignore you. You minimize your message. You use filler words. You speak quickly, like you're trying to get it over with. You preface everything with, I'm not sure if this makes sense, but... And the result? People take your words less seriously, not because your ideas lack value, but because your energy lacks certainty. Not arrogance, not ego, just quiet certainty. That says, I know what I'm saying matters, even if it's not perfect. But if you expect to be dismissed, you will start speaking in a way that invites dismissal. And it won't matter how smart you are, how insightful you are, how right you are, because no one can believe in your voice if you don't carry it like it belongs. The shift: slow down, say less, and let your words land. You don't need to rush through them. You don't need to explain them twice. You don't need to lower your tone just to seem agreeable. You can speak and stop, and in that pause, people will feel the shift. They'll feel your trust in yourself. They'll lean in. Let's bring this together. We started this journey in Chapter 1, with your silence. Then we explored shame, childhood, confidence, the mirror rule, and presence. And now, you know something powerful. Even when you're not speaking, you're always communicating. Your breath, your stillness, your gaze, your body, all of it speaks, louder than your words ever could. And that means every room you enter is a chance to send a new signal. A signal that says, I'm safe with myself. I deserve to be heard. I trust my voice. These signals aren't just for others. They're for you. Because when you shift your silent language, you change how you experience yourself. And when that changes, So does everything else. Stay with me. Chapter 8. From Awkward to Magnetic. The shift begins here. Let's be honest. There's nothing more frustrating than feeling like the awkward one in the room. You try to say something, and it lands weird. You overthink your every move. You walk away thinking, why do I always come off like that? It's painful, not because you lack intelligence or kindness, but because deep down, you know that there's more in you, more clarity, more warmth, more power, but it never fully comes out, at least not when it matters. And in those moments, you wonder, why does it feel so easy for others, but so hard for me? Here's the truth no one talks about. You're not awkward, you're disconnected. Not from the world, but from yourself. Because when you're connected to you, fully grounded in your body, breath, and truth, you don't need to force presence. You become presence. And that's where the shift begins. From awkward to magnetic. Let's start here. Most people think magnetic means being loud, charming, or extroverted. But that's not true. Magnetic people don't talk the most. They don't always tell the best stories. They don't try to impress you. They just make you feel something, and you don't know why. That something isn't words. It's energy. It's presence. It's the quiet confidence of someone who is deeply at home in their body, whether they're talking or simply sitting in stillness. And here's the part no one tells you. You don't become magnetic by adding more. You become magnetic by removing what blocks your natural energy from flowing. Let me explain. When you feel awkward, it's not because you're broken. It's because something inside you is trying to manage the moment. You're over-monitoring. You're analyzing every word. You're scanning people's reactions. You're trying to control how you're perceived. That pressure creates a split. One part of you is trying to be present. The other part is watching yourself from the outside. That's what awkwardness is. It's not a flaw. It's a symptom. A signal that says, you're not fully here. You're not grounded. You're not breathing deeply. You're not trusting that being you is enough. And when you're not fully in the moment, you feel off, because you are off. Now let's look at what magnetism really is. Magnetism is not about controlling attention. It's about relaxing into your full self and letting others feel it. It's about being so present that others drop into presence just by being near you. It's about speaking from stillness, not from stress, making eye contact without fear, holding silence without rushing to fill it, and, most importantly, it's about being deeply okay with whatever response comes. That's real power, because when your self-worth is no longer attached to how people react, you become magnetic without trying. But how do you shift? How do you go from overthinking every word to becoming someone others are naturally drawn to? Let's walk through this transformation, step by step. Step 1. Return to your body. You can't be magnetic if you're stuck in your head, and most awkwardness begins there. In the mental spin cycle of, what do I say next? What are they thinking of me? Am I being weird right now? Your mind is in the future, your energy is fractured, and your presence disappears. The antidote? Come back. Feel your feet. Feel your breath. Feel your chest rise. This reconnects you with your body, and presence always lives in the body, not the mind. Once you feel your body, your voice slows down. Your tone deepens. Your words carry weight. People don't need more words from you. They need more you in your words. Step 2. Let go of performance. Awkwardness grows when you believe you have to do it right, say the right thing, sound confident, be entertaining, keep the conversation flowing. But magnetism isn't performance. It's permission. Permission to be real, to speak when you want to speak, to pause when you want to pause, to laugh when something's funny, not when it's expected. You stop trying to impress, and you start to express. And something incredible happens. People lean in. Because your energy no longer says, "Please like me." It says, "This is me, take your time." And that calm, grounded energy makes others feel safe. Step 3. Detach from the outcome. This is the hardest part, but the most freeing. You cannot be magnetic while constantly needing validation. You can't say something and then scan the room for approval. You can't share yourself while secretly waiting to be accepted. Because people can feel that. Desperation repels. Detachment attracts. When you stop chasing connection, and instead trust it, you stop feeling awkward. You say what's true. You allow silence. You trust that if it's real, it will land. You don't manipulate, you invite. And invitations always feel better than pressure. Let's bring this home. If you've made it to this chapter, you've already walked through so much. You've uncovered why you stay silent. You've met the hidden shame you've carried for years. You've returned to your presence, to your breath, to your truth. You've seen how others feel you before you speak, and how your signals shape your world. Now, in this chapter, the shift begins. From fragmented to full, from anxious to anchored, from awkward to magnetic. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you've always been, underneath the fear. Because the real you, the grounded, unforced, present you, that version has always been magnetic. You just needed to come back. From here, every room you enter is different. Not because the world changed, but because your energy did. You stop overthinking. You stop proving. You stop managing how others feel. And instead, you just show up, fully, clearly, honestly. You speak when it matters. You pause when it doesn't. You hold your space without shrinking. That's how the shift happens. Not through noise, but through stillness. Not through perfection, but through presence. From awkward to magnetic. It starts here, and it never ends. Chapter 9. How to rewire your nervous system for social ease. What if the problem wasn't your personality, but your nervous system? What if every awkward silence, every moment you froze, stuttered, or backed down, every time your voice shook when it mattered most, wasn't because you're weak, but because your body never learned how to feel safe around people? That's what most don't understand. Social anxiety is not a flaw. It's a pattern, a survival pattern, written into your nervous system a long time ago. And unless you rewrite it, no amount of advice will fix it. Because when your body feels unsafe, no strategy can override it. No affirmation can reach it. No confidence tip will matter. Until your nervous system believes, "It's okay now, I don't have to protect myself anymore." Let's slow it down. If you followed this journey, you already know silence has a reason. You already know you carry signals you didn't mean to send. You already know people feel your energy before your words. But now we take it deeper, not into mindset, not into language, but into the place beneath it all, your body. Because your body remembers what your mind forgets. And every social fear you carry was once a moment of survival. Let me explain. As a child, you learned fast. You learned who was safe to speak around and who wasn't. You learned when your feelings were too much or not enough. You learned that speaking up might bring punishment or shame or rejection. And your body adapted, not with words, but with sensations. Your breath shortened. Your shoulders tightened. Your voice got quiet. Your eyes looked down. Not because you wanted to, but because your nervous system made a choice. Silence is safer. And from that moment on, every time you entered a social space, your body remembered the danger, even when it wasn't there anymore. That's why rewiring your nervous system isn't about being more confident. It's about feeling safe enough to be who you already are. Let me say that again. It's not about confidence. It's about safety. Because the real you isn't anxious. The real you isn't frozen or afraid. The real you isn't awkward. The real you is hidden behind years of tension, layers of protection, walls built by your nervous system to keep you safe. So today, we start taking those walls down, gently, slowly, together. Let's talk about how this rewiring actually works. There are 3 parts to your nervous system you need to know. 1. Fight or flight, your body's way of bracing for danger. 2. Freeze, when your system gets overwhelmed and shuts down. 3. Social engagement, the safe zone, where connection feels natural. Most people with social anxiety live in fight, flight, or freeze, always anticipating judgment, always on edge, always ready to hide or overcompensate, and they wonder why social ease feels impossible. But here's the good news. The nervous system is plastic. It can change, it can heal, it can learn to feel safe again, and it starts with small repeated signals that say, "I'm not in danger, I don't have to perform, I can just be." Step 1. Regulate before you communicate. This is the foundation. Before you enter any social space, pause. Don't try to rehearse what you'll say. Just check in. Are your shoulders tight? Is your chest open or collapsed? Are you breathing deep or holding your breath? If your body is bracing, your nervous system is still in survival mode. So before you speak, breathe. Slow, deep, through the nose, not to calm down instantly, but to signal your body, "I'm okay. I don't need to run." This is how you create new wiring, not with a trick, but with truth. Because when your breath deepens, your nervous system softens, and suddenly your voice can flow more freely. Step 2. Co-regulate through the eyes. Here's something few people understand. Your nervous system syncs with others. It's called co-regulation. When you're around someone calm and safe, your body mirrors them. When you're around someone intense or cold, your body contracts. But what happens when you're trying to connect and you're carrying years of tension? You need to retrain your nervous system to feel safe in connection. And one of the most powerful ways? Eye contact. Not staring, not performing, just holding eye contact. For a few more seconds than you're used to. With curiosity, with breath, with stillness. This teaches your body, I can be seen and nothing bad happens. I can hold connection without collapsing. At first, it will feel uncomfortable, but with time, it becomes natural. That's rewiring. That's healing. Step 3. Speak from the exhale. Here's a secret. People who speak with calm, magnetic presence aren't just choosing better words. They're speaking from regulation. They speak from the exhale. Why? Because when you speak from the exhale, your body is already relaxed. You're not bracing. You're not rushing. You're grounded. Try it. Take a deep breath in, then let it go. And then say what you were going to say. Feel the difference. No push, no panic. Just flow. This is what nervous system rewiring sounds like. And over time, it becomes your new normal. Let's take a breath. This journey isn't about becoming a new person. It's about coming home to the version of you that never got to feel safe enough to come out. You're not awkward. You're not broken. You're not bad at socializing. You're carrying a body that was wired to survive, not to connect. But now, that survival isn't needed. You don't need to hide. You don't need to freeze. You don't need to scan the room to stay safe. You're not that scared child anymore. You're here. You're healing. And your body is listening. Every time you breathe deep, hold eye contact. Speak slowly. Stay present in discomfort. You're telling your nervous system, we're safe now. You don't need to protect me anymore. And your nervous system will believe you, if you stay consistent. So the next time you feel anxious in a room, or small in a conversation, or tight in your body, don't try to fix it. Just come back. Come back to your breath, come back to your body, come back to your calm, and from there, speak, connect, belong. Because social ease isn't a gift you're born with. It's a state your nervous system can learn. And when it does, you don't have to try so hard anymore. You just show up, and the ease flows through you, naturally, quietly, powerfully. Chapter 10. You were never broken, just untrained. You weren't born broken. You didn't enter this world doubting your voice. You weren't born afraid to speak up, to be seen, to be felt. Somewhere along the way, you learned silence. Somewhere you were trained to hold your truth inside, to make yourself small, to only show the parts of you that felt safe. But let's be very clear, that was training, not truth. And now, in this final chapter, we unlearn it all. Because the version of you you've been chasing, that calm, powerful, grounded version, they've always been there. Not broken, not missing, just waiting for you to remember. Take a breath. Look back at this entire journey. Chapter by chapter, you've peeled back the layers. The silence you couldn't explain. The hidden emotions that ruled you. The childhood conditioning that trained your nervous system to stay quiet. The truth about confidence. The invisible energy you send into every room. The shift into presence, not performance. The silent signals that shaped your life. The power of magnetism through stillness. The rewiring of your nervous system for social ease. And now, this moment, the return. The realization that you were never less than, never too much, never broken. You were just untrained. But the good news is, what was trained can be untrained, and what was forgotten can be reclaimed. Let's go back to the beginning. As a child, you absorbed everything without filter, not just words, but energy. If your truth wasn't welcomed, you learned to edit yourself. If your voice was ignored or punished, you learned to stay quiet. If emotions made others uncomfortable, you learned to bottle them. You didn't question it. You simply adapted. And over time, those adaptations became identity. I'm just shy. I'm not good at conversations. I don't like attention. I always feel awkward. But these weren't facts. They were survival patterns, learned responses, reflexes trained into your nervous system. They helped you survive a time when you couldn't protect yourself. But now, they no longer serve you, and that means you get to let them go. Let's sit with something powerful. Every trait you wish you had is already within you. Confidence, presence, clarity, calm, connection. You don't need to build them from scratch. You just need to remove what's blocking them. The tension, the stories, the nervous system stuck in survival. Because once those release, your natural self rises, effortlessly, like a river that was always flowing, just covered in debris. You don't become someone new. You return to someone ancient, someone real, someone whole. Let me tell you a quiet truth. Your voice doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. Your body doesn't need to be perfect to feel safe. Your presence doesn't need to be flawless to be felt. What people respond to is your wholeness, the you that doesn't flinch when seen, the you that doesn't chase approval, the you that speaks with breath, with pause, with trust. That's what changes how the world experiences you, and more importantly, it's what changes how you experience yourself. But let's not pretend this is easy. This path, it's not about hacks or shortcuts. It's about daily rewiring, small moments of awareness, pausing before you speak, grounding yourself in a room instead of shrinking, holding eye contact one breath longer, letting silence exist without panic, speaking from your body, not your fear. These are the new signals, the new training, and over time your system adjusts. What once felt terrifying becomes normal. What once made you freeze now feels open. What once drained you now energizes you. That's how rewiring happens. Quietly, consistently, with love. So let's go deeper. What does it really mean to be untrained? It means you've been using outdated maps. Maps written when you were young, under stress, fear, and confusion. And those maps have led you to avoid speaking up, setting boundaries, taking space, asking for what you need, letting others fully see you. But now, you don't need those maps anymore, because you're no longer that child, and the world is no longer as dangerous as your body once believed. Your job now is to teach your system a new reality, that you can be calm and still powerful, that you can be visible and still safe, that you can speak truth and still be loved. And yes, there will be fear, but you'll speak anyway. Yes, there will be moments of doubt, but you'll return to your breath. Yes, your body will sometimes tremble, but that's not a failure. It's healing. Here's the real victory: when you stop trying to become someone else and start coming back to the real you, the grounded one, the warm one, the deeply aware, fully feeling, quietly confident you, the one who can sit in silence and still be felt, the one who can say one word and still shift the room, the one who doesn't perform, but exists, fully, clearly, gently. That's the real you, and the more you train your body to feel safe in that state, the more you live there, until one day, it's not training anymore. It's just your way of being. You made it. You walked through silence. You sat with old wounds. You felt the tension in your voice, your breath, your body. And you stayed. That alone is healing. Because most people don't make it this far, not just in a video, but in life. They avoid the discomfort. They stay in the roles they were trained to play. They speak the words they think others want to hear, while their truth dies quietly inside them. But you chose to listen deeper, to sit with your own reflection, to trace the silence back to its source, to question the story that said, "You're broken, you don't belong, you'll never be heard." And because of that, something has already shifted inside you, not loudly, not suddenly, but quietly, like dawn. You've heard a lot over these 10 chapters, not just ideas, but reminders, each one holding up a mirror to the parts of you were taught to forget, the child who swallowed their voice to keep the peace, the body that froze to protect itself, the breath that went shallow every time shame entered the room, the presence that dimmed itself to stay invisible, the truth that learned to stay quiet, even when it burned to be spoken, and you didn't run from it. You let it rise, you let it speak, you let it be felt. This is how you return to yourself. Let's go deeper. You don't need to remember every lesson from every chapter. You don't need to memorize each technique, because the real shift doesn't live in your mind. It lives in your nervous system, your breath, your posture, your tone, your gaze, your stillness. It lives in the quiet ways you've already started moving differently. You feel it when you pause before speaking, when you breathe deeper before entering a room, when you stop rushing to be liked and start allowing yourself to be real. You don't need to try to be magnetic. You already are, because people don't respond to perfection. They respond to presence, and your presence has always been waiting. It just needed space. It just needed safety. It just needed you. So, what now? You keep going, not by forcing progress, but by listening, over and over again, to your inner signals. That's the new path. Not loud, not performative, but grounded. And every time your body tenses in old fear, you soften, you breathe, you notice, you choose again. That's how we rewire. That's how we become free. Not all at once, but breath by breath, moment by moment. In the small invisible shifts no one else can see, but you can feel. And listen. There will be days you forget all of this. Days your voice shakes again. Days you fall quiet when you wish you'd spoken. Days you feel the old patterns creeping back in like shadows. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you're human. It means the old wiring is still unwinding. It means healing is still happening. Because healing isn't a straight line. It's a spiral. It takes you deeper each time you return, not to the past, but to yourself. And now, you have something you didn't have before. Awareness, tools, language, presence. You've met the version of you that doesn't shrink, the version that speaks with warmth, not apology. That feels others fully, without losing yourself in the process. That version is real. And the more you come back to it, the more the world will mirror it. So here's the invitation now that the story has ended. Live like you've already come home. Don't wait for permission to be whole. Don't shrink to fit into what others expect. Don't chase noise. Become still. Because the truth is, you don't need to find your voice. You just need to stop holding your breath. You don't need to become someone better. You just need to remember who you were before the fear. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. That's it. That's the path. And now, it's yours to walk. So wherever you go next, speak slowly, stand fully, look people in the eyes, let silence exist, and let your presence say everything your words cannot. Because you were never broken. You were just untrained. And now, you remember, you're not becoming someone new. You're returning to someone ancient, rooted, and real. The one who's been whispering beneath the noise all along. Welcome home.